Is social distancing truly important for saving lives? It used to be, but now our politicians are saying it really doesn't matter. In April 2020, Ontario Premier Doug Ford denounced people who were protesting against the lockdown as absolutely irresponsible, selfish, reckless, law-breaking yahoos.
When I
In Alberta,
looked out the window and we see these people that are absolutely irresponsible. It's reckless to do what they're doing. And personally, I think it's selfish. But then we have, a bunch of yahoos out in the front of Queen's Park sitting there protesting that the place isn't open, as they're breaking the law and putting everyone in jeopardy, putting themselves in jeopardy, putting the workers in jeopardy, and God forbid one of them end up in the hospital down the street. And then we have these people that want to break ranks with 14.5 million people and just go rogue. Again, it's irresponsible, reckless, and it's selfish.
In Alberta, lone protester Cody Holler was arrested and dragged out of the Alberta Legislature grounds on May 11th and given a $1,200 ticket. The Justice Centre is representing several people who have received tickets and huge fines for having peacefully exercised their charter freedoms to move, travel, associate, assemble, and worship. But now it turns out that while social distancing is very important when you're protesting against the violation of your charter freedoms, it's not important at all when you're protesting against racism. On May 30th, over 3,000 people crowded into downtown Toronto to protest against racism. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is keeping Ontario under lockdown until at least June 30th, banning gatherings of more than 5 people and keeping churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples closed. Yet Premier Ford did not denounce these 3,000 anti-racism protesters as irresponsible, selfish, reckless, law-breaking yahoos. The same in Alberta, where more than 1,000 people protested against racism in downtown Calgary. There was no outrage or condemnation from Alberta's Chief Medical Officer, Dina Hinshaw, who said that you should sort of try to observe social distancing as much as possible, but if you don't, well, it's not a big deal. Likewise, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney has expressed no outrage or even disapproval of the violation of social distancing at anti-racism protests. Like Dina Hinshaw, his message is, do the best you can to observe social distancing, but if you don't, it doesn't really matter. So here you have the science on which Premiers Ford and Kenney rely as the pretext for violating our charter freedoms. Their science tells us that houses of worship and anti-lockdown protests are a grave danger for spreading COVID-19, but anti-racism rallies are not. Canadians have the constitutional freedom to peacefully protest racism, just like they have the constitutional freedom to gather for worship and to peacefully protest government lockdowns. So, here's an idea for churches, temples, mosques, and synagogues. Open your doors wide to thousands and thousands of people and tell Premier Ford and Premier Kenney that you are holding rallies against racism. Just don't tell them that you also plan to worship God. I'm John Carpay. Thanks for listening.